What up? It's Raphael, NBA Draft Junkies, and today is my first episode of the NBA Draft Junkies podcast with Dash Radio and Nothin But Net Radio, which is under Dash. You know, I have the NBA Draft Junkies podcast, and I have my website, and I have my YouTube channel, NBA Draft Junkies. But I'm just glad that I'm able to have this partnership with Nothin But Net and Dash Radio, just giving me this opportunity and giving me another platform. And today I got my brother with me. You know, my first episode, I had to bring my brother James with me. What's up, James?
What's up?
All right, so today we're just going to talk NBA draft. This is what we normally do. And today I want to rank the positions as far as the players at each position. So we'll start off with the point guards. And this is, for us, we kind of have the same opinion. Other people have different opinions on their top point guard. So I ask you first, James, in your opinion, who is the best point guard in this draft class?
I am going to go with Killian Hayes as the best point guard in this draft. I like his playmaking. I like his he shows flashes of the necessary wiggle. He's really good in the pick and roll. His shooting needs to improve some, but really everybody in this draft needs to improve their shooting off the dribble and really catch and shoot. But I like him more than I like LaMelo. I think LaMelo, his size is intriguing. I think his vision can be intriguing. But, he just kind of looks like big Jason Williams to me. And I feel like with Killian, I feel like he gives me Goran Dragic vibes. Maybe not the score right away, but, the crafty playmaking, the super left hand, the kind of deceptive speed. I like him a lot. I think he's the best point guard in this draft. And if I were in position to take a point guard, he'd be my first pick. Not the first pick, but my first pick as a point guard.
See, I see a little bit of Goran. I just don't think he has the first step. That's a major part of Dragic's game, is that first step and how aggressive he is driving to the rim. I can see a combination of Goran and D'Angelo Russell. I think that
I don't think he shoots well enough to be D'Angelo Russell.
Not yet. I think he can. He shot like 87, 88% from the free throw line. And now, do you believe that the free throw shooting is a good indicator of field goal percentage of them being a good shooter long term?
If you'd have asked me this last year, I would have said yes. I'm going to say no, because you got guys like John Wall is a high 80s, free throw shooter. My guy, De'Aaron Fox, shoots well from the free throw line.
But he shot well from three, though.
And he shot well his second year. This year he dropped back down to like 32. So, you want to say the touch is there, but I don't think it's like a perfect one-to-one correlation as far as like three-point shooting and free throw shooting. Because it's just, it's a different shot, You're shooting three-pointers off the dribble as a point guard. You got guys closing out on you. So it's not necessarily, to me, he's an 88% free throw shooter. That means he's going to shoot league average and above. It happens, but it doesn't always happen.
So, yeah, I have Killian as my number one point guard also. I think that he may not be as flashy of a passer as LaMelo, but I think he's definitely a guy that has high-level court vision, especially considering that he only passes with one hand. I think if he can work on his right hand and be able to run pick and rolls to the right side of the court, I think he'll be even more dangerous. But, yeah, I'm high on him. I actually like him above LaMelo. I know everybody is high on LaMelo. He's the people's favorite. And this is what I want to ask you. If we didn't know LaMelo Ball from the time he was 13 years old, we didn't know anything about the Ball family and LeVar and his brother, based off of what you saw, do you think he would be in consideration for the number one pick in the draft without that? Or do you think this is a little bit of the media push that is helping him get to where he's ranked as a prospect?
No, I don't think that has anything to do. I think that's more so for the he's a foreigner crowd. We got a crowd of people who evaluate and they immediately look down on foreign players. Now I know LaMelo isn't foreign, but he played, overseas. But if his name was, LaMelo Johnson, he would still be a 6'7", point guard that shows ability to make plays off the dribble, who plays hard, rebounds, looks to finish. He shoots threes off the dribble. Like he checks the boxes of a top tier prospect. I just don't buy into him being the shooter that he looks like.
Why is that? What's the reason why you don't buy into him being that type of shooter?
For one, he takes bad shots. So he's a bad shot taker, and he shoots a low percentage. I want to say he shot like 25% from three in Australia, and like that's a hard grave to get out of. So it's like I don't necessarily buy him as that kind of shooter. I think he will be able to shoot, but largely his upside depends on him being able to shoot. Because he's in comparison to his brother, he's better off the dribble, but he's not.
That doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much, but he'll mix it up. He'll go to the basket. He shoots the shots his brother doesn't take.
Yeah, he's definitely more confident in his game than his brother.
So like I said, if his name was LaMelo Johnson and he was 6'7", and you saw him being able to handle the ball and create shots for himself, and the kind of shots that he does take and make, I'd still like him top 3, 5, whatever you want to select him at.
All right, so you're pretty nice with the comparisons, right?
Go ahead.
And so, who do you compare him to? I already heard you say a bigger Jason Williams. Is there anybody else?
Jason Williams.
Yeah. Sacramento Kings Jason Williams, because the Jason Williams that played in Memphis, it's like Hubie Brown made him tone his game down a little bit. We didn't see the flash. He became a better player, but we didn't see as much of the flash and the freewheeling that we saw in Sacramento. So, is there anybody else?
No, because there isn't really anyone who's been his size that is a point guard that is going to be a point guard. I think is a point guard long term. So like even with his brother, and I have a scorching hot take, I think his brother is eventually gonna be a wing, a three, because he can't create for himself off the dribble. So in the history of the NBA, we have big point guards. We've got Penny. We got Sean Livingston, who eventually morphed into I don't know what he was in Golden State, a Swiss Army knife.
Ball player,
yeah. But, Thomas Satoransky, he's a 6'7" point guard. So there's not like a lot to compare him to that's realistic. So, I think big Jason Williams is a good basketball player.
But is that number one pick worthy?
No, I'm not taking him number one.
Because Jason Williams was seventh I believe.
Pick, yes.
And so,
and the game is different than when Jason Williams played too.
Yeah.
So, if LaMelo is a 16, 7, and 5 guy at some point in his career, I don't know when, you'll take that. And I think that he has that ability. Now, is it going to be efficient? Is it going to be pretty? Is it going to be winning basketball? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see him put up 16, 7, and 5 as a rookie, depending on what team he goes to.
If he goes to Golden State, he's not doing that. No. If he goes to Minnesota, he's not doing that. So, like I said, it's situational.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be efficient. I don't know if it'd be winning basketball, but I wouldn't be shocked to see those type of numbers as a rookie. But again,
I don't think he'll get 16 as a rookie.
It depends on the team. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go to a team. If the team trades and he goes to a team where they just give him the keys and just say, "Hey, do what you do. We don't care. We want to,
But
it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic. We're not making any money, so we want to. When fans are allowed to come to the games, we want to sell tickets and jerseys. I wouldn't be surprised to see a team just give him the keys. Now moving on, so you have Killian Hayes as your number one point guard.
Yes.
Number 2 is LaMelo Ball.
Yes.
Who is your number 3 point guard?
Again, I'm thinking out the box. I'm gonna go with Kira Lewis.
You've been high on him for a minute.
I'm still.
I want to say you were the first person I saw that was really high on him over like a year ago. So what makes you so high on him as opposed to like a Cole Anthony or Tyrese Haliburton?
Okay, so the thing is with Kira Lewis is that it's a combination of him and a combination of this draft. So, like, to me, after Anthony Edwards and I guess after 4 or 5, the difference between the 6th pick and the 13th pick isn't very much to me.
Right.
So it's like, I honestly believe in this draft, you'll see reaches and then you'll see guys fall. So it just kind of depends on what do you want and what do you see. There's not a consensus, draft order to me. So I like Kira Lewis. I love his speed, for one. I love his footwork in the paint. So what I mean by footwork in the paint is he's got slow steps going right to left to finish. He's got, slow steps going the opposite way. So, like, things like that as a point guard, when you're going to have the ball in your hands, you're going to play a lot of high pick and roll, are, like, valuable to me. And I feel like he has the best footwork in the draft as a point guard. But, like, you've seen the success of guys who've had top-end speed the last couple years. Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox. Like, the game is being fast. It's being played very fast. Right. He shoots the ball well enough.
And he's young. I think that's the thing that people are forgetting, how young he is. He's probably like...
I think Patrick Williams is the only one that's older than him in this draft. Younger than him.
Pokusevski,
okay.
Yeah, he just barely made the deadline. But, yeah, I mean, Kira Lewis played at the under-19s last summer. And on the same team were guys like Jalen Green and guys that are just entering either their freshman year in college or playing in that G League thing. So he's like 2 grade levels ahead of some of the guys that are highly projected or highly touted prospects in the 2021 draft. But he may not be, that much older than them.
Right. He's younger than Cole Anthony by like a whole year. So it's like he shot the ball well at Alabama. I've read others say his playmaking can improve, but to me, when you got a guy that you can't keep out of the paint, like, you don't have to make every single read. Yeah. I'm not saying that's him, but Tony Parker wasn't a great playmaker, but Tony Parker made plays by just being faster than everyone and getting in the paint, finishing, and when the defense collapsed, he made the right play. So, like I said,
to the corner man made an extra pass, and it all started with him breaking down the defense.
If Kira can throw a lob to the dunker or hit a corner man, he's gonna be fine, I think, in the NBA. And I think he can play on and off the ball because he shot the ball pretty well and catches shoot opportunities. So, like I said, I'm high on him. I think if you're the Knicks and he's available, I'm taking him as my point guard.
All right, so he's also my third. I agree. I think speed kills, especially in today's NBA. I think he'll be even better in the NBA because he'll have floor spacing. I think that he's a guy, you give him a screen, but he doesn't even need a screen. But if you give him a screen, then he's already downhill. And then if he can just make the basic dump-offs, and which he can already make in my opinion, I think that he's highly underrated, but it seems like as of late, his name is climbing up different draft boards. All right, so moving on to number 4. I mean, we're talking about guys that we project to be in the lottery. Who do you think is the 4th best point guard in this draft?
See, here to me is where it gets tricky. Okay, so like if you I'm not a big fan of the pass first point guard model. The Tyrese Haliburton, I understand people like him. He can shoot the ball, and he's not going to hurt you. But, if I'm in the lottery for a reason, and I'm not trying to, pick someone who's not going to hurt me. I don't think that's been working very well. So, like, I could understand a team taking Cole Anthony and saying, you know what, that season at North Carolina, wasn't really him. He's a very good athlete. He shot the ball well in the catch and shoot. He showed small flashes of being a playmaker, and you trust his NBA pedigree. I understand that. I can also understand a team saying, you know what, RJ Hampton, we may swing for the fences and try to convert him into a point guard. I mean, it worked for Russell Westbrook. Not saying that he's Russell Westbrook, but it worked for Westbrook. It worked for DeJounte Murray. I was really impressed with his his pace, and his ability to kind of make plays. And again, not the shots he was making, because he didn't make anything in Australia, but the shots that he was taking, I was impressed with that. So if a team wanted to roll the dice and try to convert him into a point guard, I'd believe it, and I'd accept it. And also, I mean, at worst case scenario, like if you're bad again next year, it's 2021 draft, which is supposed to be
deeper,
a lot deeper. So like I understand that. I don't necessarily see the same point guard ability in Tyrese Maxey. I think he's more so just a 2, which is fine. But again, I get drafting Haliburton. I don't think he can shoot off the dribble. I don't think he can beat anyone off the dribble. So like to me, that's a major red flag. That's, again, not to pound on him, but that's a Lonzo red flag to me. Like you can only do so much with those guys. And like I said, you're in the lottery for a reason. So. But yeah, I understand RJ.
So you have RJ as your number 4 point guard?
Yeah, I can be sold on that.
Yeah, so I think long term he could be a point. Right now I have him as a 2. But for me, my 4th point guard on my list, I would go with Cole Anthony. Before I had Haliburton higher. But then I thought about it. Like this. If I had them work out together and they competed heads up for a position on my team, I think Cole Anthony comes out on top easily.
Absolutely.
If I wanted a guy to be my point guard that I think could be an engine and be the best player on my team possibly, I think I would go with Cole Anthony. I think that the situation at North Carolina, I don't feel too bad for him because I feel like college is the one thing that, or maybe not the one thing, but you pick your teammates in a sense. You know where you're going. You know the roster before you get there. So I think in a sense, there wasn't any surprise that North Carolina didn't have any floor spacing. But he was sold on, Carolina, the pedigrees to blue blood schools, so whatever. So I do think that his lack of finishing around the rim was directly related to them not having any floor spacing. But again, I feel like he probably knew that going into the season. I think that hurt his stock. But one of the things I've mentioned before on like previous podcasts is the thing that stood out to me most about him was when he was hurt, he came back. That North Carolina team wasn't going anywhere. They had like no chance of making the NCAA tournament if we would have had the tournament. He tore his meniscus. He came back, and he came back the same player. He was aggressive. He has a competitive fire that I like. I think that early in his career, I would like to see him come off the bench. So let's say he goes to a team like Phoenix or New Orleans or Washington. He comes off the bench and he becomes like it allows him to do what he does best, which is kind of score. And then you can probably play him in the backcourt with a John Wall or a Ricky Rubio or a Drew Holiday in certain stretches. And if he can learn the nuances of the game as a point guard from those guys, then I think that would help him out long term. But right now, I don't think that he is. I mean, I hate using the word pure point guard. I don't think that he's a good enough passer to, like play winning basketball as your lead guard. But I think that if he can be a decent playmaker, it'll help. The reason I have him over Haliburton is because with Tyrese, I think that he is the ultimate safe pick. I think he's the ultimate glue guy. I think that if you have a really good team and you put him there, especially if you have a really good dominant ball handler as a wing ball handler, like for example, let's say
Chicago, he would work. I don't think they would take him 5th, but he would work in Chicago. But at the same time, they have Thomas Satoransky who does the exact. He's cheaper, but that's what Thomas Satoransky is there to do. And ultimately, did Thomas Satoransky raise the ceiling of that team?
But they had a lot of injuries.
They did have a lot of injuries, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, did it work? And you can say really the Bulls kind of started playing better when they let Kobe get loose.
I'm big on Kobe White. He averaged like 26 a game after the All-Star break. I know it was, after the All-Star break wasn't a whole lot of games. Oh yeah, I mean I like Kobe White a lot. I think like overall the best fit team-wise for a guy like Haliburton are teams that aren't in position to draft as high. I think like a Houston with James Harden, he can play off the ball. All he has to do is knock down shots. He gives them another passer
and play point guard when James Harden does sit.
Right. Golden State, obviously, he can go there, and then he could be their backup point guard. I think he slides into the Sean Livingston role in the sense where he just kind of plays a little bit of 1 through 3, and then you give them another knockdown shooter and another guy that can make plays if needed and passes the ball. Even Dallas, in a sense, Luka's going to be the primary ball handler. He can knock down open shots and gives them another playmaker. But none of those teams are in the lottery.
Golden State.
So, other than Golden State, but I don't.
Do you think Golden State would trade down to take him?
I don't know. I mean, I think if Golden State is going to trade down, I think that they would swing for the fences.
Because guys are 30.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that would be a good fit. But I think I just think the Warriors would take somebody who they probably think would have a higher upside if they're going to trade down. I'm just not really high on Haliburton's potential to be like a lead guard. I think that he's going to be the ultimate glue guy. I think that he's going to be like Lonzo Ball in a sense, but a better shooter than Lonzo. It's the same, very similar as far as you're not going to be able to run pick and rolls. And so in that case, I think that I would take a guy like Cole Anthony over him. And then if I had RJ listed as my point guard, RJ Hampton in my list of point guards, I would take RJ Hampton over Tyrese Haliburton too, especially as a long-term prospect. I think right now Haliburton has more so of a defined position and a defined role, but skill for skill and talent-wise, I think that I would take RJ Hampton over him. And then also, like, to be honest with you, there's some guards that are projected to go later in the first round that I think that could have a better potential. Like, for example, if I use that same theory, if I needed to win a game and I had Haliburton matched up against Grant Riller, I think Grant Riller would give him buckets.
I'm not lying. I don't disagree with you.
I think that Grant Riller has a better chance of being an engine, but I kind of see him as a role as like a scorer. But I would be shocked to see Grant Riller have like a Fred VanVleet light type career. I think that he's being overlooked in a sense because of his age and the fact that he didn't go to one of these big blue blood schools. But I like Grant Riller. I like him a lot. Tyrell Terry.
He grew.
Yeah, I think that well, how much did they say he grew?
They say he's 6'3", 175.
Was he like 160?
Man, he was a $140 at Stanford. It looked like his shirt was falling off his body. So again, yeah, I agree with you. It's like, if he's really 6'3", you know what projects with him: lights out shooting, scoring. I agree with you. Not to cut you off, but like I just think that the pass first point guard, the pure point guard, is the new running back.
Yeah.
You can get anybody to do that.
All right, so not Tyrese Maxey. Do you think that he's a 1 or a 2 or a 1.5?
I think he's a 2. I think his assists. Well, he played at Kentucky, and we know Kentucky kind of puts the muzzle on you. But watching his film, his playmaking was more so moving the ball than it was creating for others, if that makes sense. So, like, swinging the ball and getting assists isn't the same to me as I beat my man off the dribble and I hit a guy in the corner. And a lot of his assists, to me, were swinging the ball. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's necessary a lot of the times, but I think he's more of a 2. He didn't shoot the ball well at Kentucky. And then I know that, again, so it's working in his favor that Tyler Hero is playing lights out right now.
Yeah.
And then a couple months ago, Devin Booker was like the third best player in the world. So you can sit here and say, well, is Kentucky kind of like holding him back? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But the thing is with Tyrese is like he has the ability. He has the body type. He's athletic enough. He kind of isn't an above the rim finisher, but he's like an at the rim finisher, which is perfectly fine.
Great touch around the basket.
Yeah, touch around the basket. My main thing with him is that he kind of lost some confidence in his three ball this year. And he just takes, like, to me, he takes bad angles for someone to be so strong and such a driver. He would drive around guys instead of through them. And so, like, if a team wanted to convert him into a point guard, I think he's just more so a two, which is, again, there's nothing wrong with that, him as a two. So, yeah, that's how I feel about Tyrese Maxey.
All right, what are your thoughts on Nico Mannion? He's someone that I thought was a lottery pick coming into the season, and obviously he's very unlikely to remain a lottery pick. But what are your thoughts on Mannion?
I think he is a first-round pick. I mean, again, we talked about earlier, does free throw shooting and three-point shooting translate? He's another guy that shot like 32% from the three-point line. But I like Nico. I think he's a good basketball player. I think he is and he's not the defender, and I hate to make complexion comparisons, but he reminded me of like the solid Kirk Hinrich type, where it's going to be, it's not flashy. He's going to be able to make shots. He's going to be able to make plays. Again, I'm not saying he's a defender that Kirk Hinrich was.
Or he's not as big. Hinrich could defend ones and twos.
This is true. But I like him. And, like, if you told me that Toronto had a draft pick, I think Toronto's picking, 29th this year? Mm-hmm. Toronto's picking 29th. Fred VanVleet is a free agent. Kyle Lowry is 33, 34. If Nico Mannion...
He's not aging, though. It's funny. Like, people have been talking about Kyle Lowry's decline and how that contract that he got was going to... He's going to fall off during that contract. He really hasn't declined.
He hasn't declined, but...
Especially the way he plays. Like, he plays his physical style, so...
He can only fall so many more times. And even if he doesn't, like, he's still 33, 34.
Yeah, he might get old in the summer.
Yeah. And I would take Nico there. And to me, like... I mean, as a player, you want to, go high and the money, but, like, Toronto is a great situation. So it's like, I like Nico there. I think Boston has a late pick. They may end up going with the point guard. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a knock on Nico. It's just that, like, I think with RJ, with him improving as a shooter, allegedly, with the video, and, and if you're buying that, I think his stock goes up. And then we really haven't seen much of, like, Nico anywhere. So
as far as like workout videos,
yeah, like
stuff?
Workout, or you haven't heard any news about him. So I don't,
yeah,
that's like something that kind of kills your, not necessarily to the people who are doing the evaluate, but to the other level evaluating, like us, out of sight, out of mind.
But then at this point though, everybody's video is gonna have them looking good.
This is true.
There was I won't mention the prospect, plural. Well, it's mostly one. I went to a gym and I filmed, and he didn't look good. And it might have been in June, so maybe this is when it was kind of hard for guys to get in gyms. So I was filming, and I wanted to add some content to my site. I wanted to be able to say, hey, this player's working out with this trainer, yada yada yada, and he just looked bad, and so I was told, like, don't use this footage. Like, don't put this out. Just kind of hold on to it. And, the trainer was like, the last thing you want is for this footage to get out, and then his agency is upset because, you made the guy look bad. But in this case of this particular prospect, I could have made him look better than how he looked, but the people in the gym knew, like, he didn't look good at all. And so there's nothing out. Like, I haven't seen any videos of this guy working out or doing anything all summer. So, you could say the same for him, as, he's kind of out of the public eye in a sense. But usually everything you see coming out about a prospect looks good. I mean, think about, like, the NBA players. You always see some guy like JaVale McGee.
Nah, Mitchell Robinson looked like
Mitchell Robinson.
He looked like Giannis in the summer.
He has the funniest videos.
Did you see Andre Drummond?
Yes, saw Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond looked like Jokic, Bam, and Harden.
I saw Tristan Thompson working on pick and pop threes. Yeah, so the video is kind of tough. But yeah, I mean, I agree. We haven't really seen much about Nico. We haven't heard about him much this summer. But yeah, he's someone that I still wonder, and I've been asking this question on different podcasts that I had, that let's say he falls to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks in an open competition.
I'm taking him. Absolutely.
Does he beat out Frank Mason in an open competition?
Well, why not?
I'm just asking you, does he? Frank Mason was like G League Player of the Year. I mean, he's a little older.
Frank Mason's like 25.
But I'm just saying, in an open competition, like if he goes to the Bucks, which they're not really concerned about developing long term because they're going to try to win next year.
Right.
Does he beat out Frank Mason? Does he beat out Frank Mason as the third point guard?
I think he can. For one, he's a better playmaker than Frank Mason, and Frank not going off his G League tape, but his Kansas film, his Sacramento film, he's just there to score. He's not a playmaker in the sense where he's not making pocket passes. He's not making skip passes. He can't make the plays that Nico Mannion can make. Now, granted, Milwaukee doesn't run a lot of pick and roll.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, I just think Milwaukee needs to retool their offensive scheme, which is a whole nother pod. But I see what you're saying as far as, like, does he beat out Frank? Yes.
You think so? Yeah, to me, it's questionable. All right. What about Theo Maledon? Have you had a chance to watch him?
I did. I watched a little bit of him. He's very skilled. He makes the right reads. He's just so slow, man. And again, top end speed isn't everything, but to me as a point guard, if you just have like even an average first step, it comes back to bite you. Cause like, how many screens do you need to come off, or can you really beat that big on a switch? So again, if he's a mid first round pick, I definitely get it. I definitely understand. But to me, I'm gonna go with the athlete over him. The athlete being, RJ, Cole Anthony. I'm going with those guys.
All right. So who's your biggest sleeper at point guard?
Sleeper at point guard?
Yep.
What's a point guard?
I mean, it's your opinion of a point guard.
I want to agree with you and say Grant Riller.
I like Grant.
I think, and he may not even be a sleeper anymore at this point, but Malachi Flynn
That's what I was about to ask
is
about
legit. Next. And again, I think he's ready to go right now. So it's like, and he's another one where he gets drafted is going to mean everything, because he's going to be that guy who you read about, like, yo, he beat out so-and-so for starting the minutes. Like, I bought into the Malachi Flynn tape. I'm sold.
I like Malachi Flynn also, but you know who my biggest sleeper is? And he shouldn't be considered a sleeper because everyone knows about him. I like Cassius Winston, man. He can play. He doesn't pass the eye test. He's not going to...
He look like Paul Pierce's little brother.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a Chris Paul type body too.
Yeah.
No cuts in his arm. He's not as athletic as Chris Paul, because a lot of people forgot that Chris Paul was...
Yeah, he was dunking.
Dunked on Dwight Howard. But he just knows how to play. Like, I jokingly say that he is like the perfect combination of street ball 101 mixed with fundamentals and a high IQ.
Okay, so let me ask you this. The only difference between... Man, I sound like a hater. But the only difference between him and a Tyrese Haliburton is he's 2 years older. Does that matter?
To me, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Because, what's Tyrese Haliburton's ceiling? Is he ever going to have wiggle? Is he ever going to have any sauce?
I don't know.
Is he ever going to be able to shoot off the dribble?
Yeah, Tyrese Haliburton, and I'm not hating on the kid. He reminds me of a guy that's game was totally developed in a gym with a trainer.
I don't even know about that, because at least the trainer...
Nah, because he been...
The trainer to give you some pop,
against,
some fake
against
stuff.
Nobody moving. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, some things like that offensive creativity that you get from playing 21 and playing pickup ball, I think that's kind of hard to add. But there are some cases, I felt like Jaylen Brown added some sauce to his game.
I think Jaylen Brown added some sauce, but he left that sauce when it came playoff time. It was straight catch and shoot threes.
That's true.
It was straight transition. It was rip through athlete. He didn't dribble between his legs not one time in the bubble. Right.
But there were times where he showed flashes. I was like, dang, he got that in his game now?
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, in my opinion, I thought Beal was just a spot-up shooter when he came into the league. And over time, he's added some... He's added some stuff to his game.
I think he's an outlier.
Right, but he's already a natural scorer.
Yes.
So when I think of Haliburton, I just don't see how he's going to be able to add sauce to his game, because the way he shoots, I think it's going to be tough for him to ever be a pull-up shooter off the dribble. He definitely doesn't attack the rim. A lot of that could be because he may not have the handle creativity to get there, but he's also so skinny, so he may not want to avoid that.
You know who he reminds me of? Man, I don't want to sound like a hater, man, but he reminds me of Frank Ntilikina, where it was a lot of side-to-side dribbling.
East and West,
and West. He couldn't beat anybody. He needed a screen, and
But I think Frank can pull up off the dribble. He kind of has a long release in a sense.
See where Frank is. Frank is a 3 now.
Yeah, I think Frank's ultimately is going to end up as a 6th, 7th man defender that's going to knock down open shots for a playoff team. I don't think that New York... He's going to be better on his second contract and on his second team.
If he can shoot.
I mean, I've watched him. He can shoot. I think the thing with him is he's a nice guy. For whatever reason, it's weird because he does play with intensity on defense. He does like to defend, which requires a little bit of nastiness on defense. On offense, he's a nice guy. I mean, I've been around him. He's a nice guy, and it translates on the court where he's a nice guy. That he doesn't really have this dog confidence that he carries on the basketball court, and I feel like he loses confidence in his shot from time to time, and he doesn't want to make mistakes. And so I think that he's fine being a game manager. And I think that Haliburton is going to be a game manager because that's just who he is. And I don't know if I want to draft a game manager in the lotto.
I agree.
All right. So as far as guards, all right, we're focusing on the guards today. Shooting guards, Anthony Edwards is my number one shooting guard. Talent-wise, he's got it. He's got the total package as far as natural God-given talent. He has the size. He has the athleticism. He just has it. The sky is the limit, but there's still some concern. So what are your thoughts on Anthony Edwards?
I really like Anthony Edwards. I think that his positives outweigh his negatives. My concern with Anthony Edwards is where he goes and the kind of veterans he's going to have around him. I think the main thing with him is he's got to clean up his shot selection. He's too big, too strong. He handles the ball too well to shoot 3 free throws a game in college. And
I thought it was more than that.
Nah, it was low. You can double check.
Actually, I thought it was a little. I thought it was one of those things where you felt like he could have did more, but then you looked at the stats and you're like, well, he actually did go to the line quite a bit. You just wanted to see more. Yeah, he went to the free throw line.
It was five times.
A game.
Okay, you're right.
So yeah, 5.3 times a game. But yeah, you just leave like he should have went 7.
But here's the thing: there would be games it balanced out. I know there's averages, right? But there would be games where I think it was Florida where he shot 12, 13 free throws, and then there'd be a game against LSU where he shot 2 free throws and he shot all bad jumpers. So it's like he has to figure out who he is as a player, and once he figures that out, I think he has the most upside. Is more upside than anyone else in this draft. Like I said, he should be able to be dominant in a sense where you should live at the foul line. He's too big and he's too strong. I know it was 5 free throws a game, but I want to say his like free throw rate was like Victor Oladipo's in college. And Victor Oladipo had his best year in Indiana when he figured out the free throw line.
Right.
So like I like Anthony Edwards. I think he can pass. I think he can shoot well enough when he takes the right shots. He's a top tier athlete, and it was just one game, but we saw his like takeover ability against Michigan State, where he was absolutely by far the best player on the court.
Right.
And that Michigan State team has at least 2 guys that are going to get drafted this year. Did Xavier Tillman stay? I think he came out.
Yeah, he's a dad. He's a family man.
He definitely should have came out. But I like
Xavier Tillman Sr. That's how he goes by.
My only concern with Anthony Edwards, he's going to be the number 1 pick, especially with my man Malik Beasley going through his things. I just don't know if Minnesota is like the best fit for him.
Yeah.
Like I would love him in Golden State. I would not work. I think he's an all-star in Golden State. Not early, obviously, but they will groom him into being the next guy or a piece or a part of their next movement in Golden State.
I don't know if he's a good fit with Golden State.
It's not necessarily the fit. It's more so the veteran leadership that's going to say, hey, man, that's not a good shot.
Yeah,
the coaching. That's what I'm talking about.
I agree.
I don't know about him doing that in Minnesota because Minnesota doesn't have any vets. Their vet is what? James Johnson? That's it. Mm-hmm. And he'll fight you.
Is Gorgie Dang still there? Or no, he's in Memphis.
Yeah. So like they don't have any vets. And it's like with Towns being the way that he is, I think Towns shot 7 threes a game last year. D'Angelo's shooting a bunch of threes.
What? Towns got to the free throw line more than LeBron James this year.
He did?
Dead serious.
I like Towns a lot. Towns is super talented. But
yeah, more times per game. I'm a double check, but I remember looking at that stat like, wait a minute. Cat got to the free throw line. He averaged more free throws per game than LeBron James. But yeah, I think that Minnesota, I don't know if that's a good fit. Even like, let's say Golden State. Here's my concern about Golden State. I think he'll learn how to play the right way.
Towns shot 6 free throws a game. But I'm sorry, before we get to that, 6 free throws a game. You look at Embiid shoots 8, 9 a game. You look at, he's not Giannis, but Giannis shoots 12 a game. Anthony Davis shoots 30 free throws a game, it seems like, but it's really 8 or 9. And it's like Towns has that talent level of those guys. So, yeah, he shot more than LeBron. But for him to be playing in this era where you're not seeing hard doubles and there's not a 4-man clogging up the paint, I feel like 6 free throws per game is just too low for him.
For Cat?
For Cat, yes.
Right. So with Edwards, let's talk about Golden State. All right. I think it can go 2 ways. I think it can go a way where he struggles because it's the first time that he won't have to be the number 1 option. He's going to get he's not going to have a lot of freedom, to be honest with you. He may get, they may be blowing teams out, but because they're competing.
Yes.
They're trying to win a championship. So you can say that he'll be forced to learn how to play the right way. He won't pick up, or his bad habits won't be intensified. But then also, it could be a situation where he could lose his confidence because even though he would be like, let's say he's the number 2 pick, if he hasn't earned his minutes, he won't necessarily get on the floor.
Think so?
Yeah, I mean, I think because they want to win, and I think that you got a guy like Draymond. I'm a big Draymond fan. I can see Draymond pushing him. You got to think like he's still a kid.
Yes.
And so, can he handle that type of?
Okay, let me counter that. I think this last year, with them being the Golden State, what are they called? Santa Cruz Slugs? Warriors?
Santa Cruz Warriors.
With them being the Santa Cruz Warriors last year, and I even heard Draymond say this on another podcast, he had to learn how to be patient with the young guys. So, like, I think Draymond is perfect for Anthony Edwards.
No, I think he's perfect for him. I just wonder for a guy like Edwards who hasn't seemed to put himself in position to be held accountable, can he handle that? Because, and I've said this on previous podcasts, the high school that he went to was like, class, whatever, lower class.
Mm-hmm.
AAU, he didn't play on the top 2 circuits. He played on Under Armour.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Georgia where he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. So I think that if it was strategic for him to put himself in position to be drafted super high, that was genius. But as far as like playing with other guys that are close to being better than him or close to his talent level, he never even played like USA basketball. And so this will be the first time where he's on a team where it's like, you may be like the 5th option, or 6th option.
I think, to me, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially with it being veterans, because, again, he may go to Minnesota and be like, D'Angelo Russell, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm better than these guys. Or he'll look at Jared Culver, who was drafted last year. Like, I'm better than Jared Culver. I'm not competing with him. Like, and it can give him a false sense of, I'm trying to be the best player on the team. Whereas, at Golden State, all right, I'm not better than Clay. I'm not better than Steph. I know who Draymond is. I'm
not going to get more shots than Wiggins.
I'm not going to get more shots than Wiggins, but let me get better in practice and figure out who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And let me figure out once these shots come. And then, like, as cliche as it is, like, those are the ultimate guys to be around. Like, yeah, Steph was a 7th pick, but people didn't think Steph was going to be, the baby GOAT. So he'll tell you about, working hard like that.
Right.
Clay was a top 10 pick. Clay goes 2-3 if you redraft. Draymond was a 2nd-round pick. So, like, he'll pick up hard work. Really, the only dude on that team that isn't, like, who ain't had to work for anything is Wiggins.
Yeah, and we'll see how he fits in with them this year. But, yeah, I mean, everything you're saying to me makes a lot of sense. I just wonder how does he handle it? Not saying like I know anything about him or his character, but I think for some guys, especially when you look at like your rookie classmates and you see them getting 15, 16 shots a game and they have total freedom because they went to bad teams. And then you end up being higher picked than most of those guys and you average like 9 points a game. Because all Golden State really needs him to do is average like 10 points a game.
I just think the situation, like with Tyler Hero, it worked out perfectly. Is working out perfectly for him. He's gonna get paid. He's gonna get a max, or
right,
dang near close to it.
But he was like, the expectations for him were different.
They
from
were
the 2nd pick or whatever to where he ended up. Because think if he would have been the 2nd pick, people would have been like, "Damn, you the 2nd pick and you behind Duncan Robinson. You the 2nd pick and you behind Kendrick Nunn." I think Tyler's situation was perfect for him in the fact that he didn't really have a lot of expectations and they were able to like go into a role.
Same time, Anthony Edwards getting drafted by Golden State. What are your realistic expectations of him? Yes, he was the 1st pick or 2nd pick or whatever,
right,
but I'm not expecting him to average 20. He plays with Steph and Clay.
Right.
So it's like, to me, you look at it as like sometimes being that guy and having that expectations is just not good.
Yeah.
You know, what if he goes to Minnesota and he averages 12 and he shoots 38%? You know, and he's taking those same tough shots he was taking at Georgia. It's like, you know, you get paid the same.
And he's going to play. They're not going to bench him.
They're not going to bench him.
So I think like...
But you can develop bad habits by not getting benched.
I agree. I just wonder how he, as a person, reacts to it. Actually, any guy. I think the only guy that I think that the Golden State situation would be ideal for, as far as like not having these high expectations, would be a guy like James Wiseman, because he's going to go and, you know, he's not going to have to... I mean, he's going to get all easy points because he's going to be spoon-fed. And then I think for Denny Avdia, he's kind of used to, like, playing that role.
Being a European player, yes.
Yeah. So, but a guy that, like, you know, even like LaMelo or Anthony Edwards, who probably are like, I want to be Rookie of the Year, or, you know.
I mean, I get that, but the situation means everything.
Yeah, but we're talking about teenagers who may not understand, like.
Look what falling to Utah has done for Donovan Mitchell. Granted, they came in and they needed him to get all the buckets.
Right.
But if he would have went to Sacramento and played with all those small forwards and power forwards, what would he be? You know?
Yep.
Who would he play for? Jaeger and then Luke Walton? He wouldn't have averaged. He wouldn't have been in the playoffs. You wouldn't have seen him drop 37 a game.
Yeah, I definitely.
So I just think where you get drafted is very important, especially for a guy like him who has flaws in his game that need to be addressed, and if they are addressed, he could turn into an all-star.
I agree. Once again, it's Raphael, NBA Draft Junkies, Nothin But Net, and Dash Radio. I'm with my brother James. Now, we've, we're brothers, so we can talk basketball all day. We're used to, like, just being able to go talk for, podcast for hours, but, we're kind of restricted since we're on a radio show. So before I close, I wanted to talk about a player we've already talked about a little bit, and that is RJ Hampton. I have a video out where I had some film of him shooting, and I showed like the difference in his shooting stroke. And then me and James, by living in the Dallas area, we've had a chance to watch him play in high school. Then I actually went out to New Zealand to watch him play. And so I have him as a 2 right now. James has him as a point. What is your comparison for RJ Hampton?
Largely dependent on his ability, to shoot the ball. Prior to seeing him handle the ball, again, I don't necessarily think he's I would say lead guard, more so point guard. I always saw Alec Burks in his game, where you just a scorer, slasher, athlete. Alex Burke on the low is a
very good player.
Very good player, sub 40% shooter from 3.
Just gotta stay healthy.
He just gotta stay healthy. He's always hurt,
mm-hmm.
and he's been played for some bad teams: Sacramento, Cleveland. I think he averaged like 17 one year in Utah. You
mm-hmm.
know, and then you saw in Philly, he was when everybody fell apart, but like in the playoffs, he was solid against Boston.
Yeah.
I think RJ could have that kind of career. I mean, hopefully he's healthier than Alec Burke, but I can see that in him. And again, not necessarily a point guard. To me, it's pick and roll ball handler. That's what I see RJ as.
Mm-hmm. Point
guard to me is that's an outdated term. It's about playmakers, and I think RJ could be a playmaker in that mode.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think he has the size and athleticism. I've seen him around. If you lined up all the players in the draft, if you look at him, he looks like a wing, kind of like LaMelo. He has the size of a wing, long arms. I think the shooting is going to determine, his potential. But he's working out with Mike Miller and Penny Hardaway when he's in Memphis. I think he goes from Memphis 1 week to Dallas, and every other week. But I like the work ethic, and I like the fact that he he's putting in the time. He knows what the knock on him is, and he's putting the time to work on it. He has a team around him that holds him accountable. And so I have seen rumors of like Detroit taking him at number 7.
Interesting to that, their new GM was around for the Westbrook.
Yeah.
So again, if he ends up being of that mold, I see it. And like I said, if I'm Detroit, we bad. I'm not taking Tyrese Haliburton. If we're bad, I'm gonna swing for the fences and try to see if I can turn this kid into, a Westbrook light type of player. And if it doesn't work, we just be in the lottery again next year.
I agree.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like RJ. Like I said, watching him play high school. I mean, high school basketball is totally different. But I think the best thing that he did for himself was go to New Zealand, and he learned how to, fit, and he learned how to play basketball and not just hoop.
Right, and that's where it's kind of like what I was saying about Anthony Edwards. If he goes to Golden State, he'll have to learn how to play basketball instead of hoop. But you just never know how a 19 or 18-year-old reacts to their first,
If
adversity.
I was Anthony Edwards, there are people, I'm like, look, you get paid the same money, whether you.
But it's the second contract that everybody's trying to put themselves in position.
And I understand, but again, look at Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is going to get paid his second contract. Jaylen Brown wasn't. You could almost say it was a slight overpay for him when he got his deal.
He's a max guy though.
But they paid him based on his potential on top of what he did. Yep. Okay, look at Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray got 170 M's, and you would have thought a couple years ago, like, he don't really pass, and he kind of doesn't really shoot that well for somebody that's supposed to be a shooter. But he's leveled up into that position. So it's like, it's your second contract. If you do what you're supposed to do with Golden State, you play well and you show those flashes, they're going to need that piece for their next run.
Yep.
So it's like, if I was his people, I would constantly remind him, like, you worry about your second contract. You get your first contract, you got that money spent. You're good to go.
I agree. Well, James, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. We'll definitely do this again. For those that don't know, and I guess a lot of people may not know, but whenever you watch my videos on YouTube or listen to my podcast at the NBA Draft Junkies podcast, James is the one that's making the fire beats. Like, he's got his machine with him now.
All the time.
He makes the beats. And so check him out on SoundCloud, Jimmy Del Negro. If you're a basketball fan, then you know where he got the name from. But yeah, man, he makes the beats, and I'm gonna stick with him. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about making beats, but I'm definitely gonna keep it in the family with my brother. But once again, like I said, thanks for coming on. This Raphael, NBA Draft Junkies, our first NBA Draft Junkie show. I got my brother James Barlowe. Shout out to Dash Radio and Nothin But Net for giving us this platform and this opportunity to just grow everything that we've been doing and giving us some additional exposure. So once again, it's Raphael with my brother James. Dash Radio, Nothin But Net Radio, NBA Draft Junkies. We are out.